Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on NetApp CVO connector deployment and best practices. My name is AJ, and I'll be your host today. We're thrilled to have you join us today. And in today's session, our experts will cover NetApp Console introduction and getting started, technical requirements in networking and compute, deployment methods, upgrades and security, and then live demo, followed by Q&A. Before we begin, I'd like to quickly go over a few housekeeping items. Please feel free to submit your questions through the Q&A panel at any time. Our engineers will address as many questions as possible during the Q&A session. We encourage active participation, so please don't hesitate to engage with us throughout the webinar. Now, I would like to invite Varun to take over from here.
Thank you, Akshita. Hello, everyone. And thank you for joining today's session on NetApp Console agent deployment best practices. So, my name is Varun, and I'll be presenting today along with Deepu, Joss, and Mikhail. So before we begin, I just wanted to briefly explain about the customer success engineer here at NetApp. So for those who are meeting us for the first time, the customer success engineers work closely with you customers, helping you in deployment, helping you in migration, helping you in troubleshooting, helping you in escalations, so that you get the maximum value out of all the services you avail through NetApp on your cloud infrastructure. Having said that, let's start our session. Okay, let's begin with the agenda here. I'll start with a quick introduction about NetApp Console and how it fits into the NetApp ecosystem. Then we can look at the technical prerequisites, such as networking, computing, what are the endpoint connectivities you require. Then we will look at the deployment methods for your agent installation and choose the right fit for your infrastructure. And we also will look at the upgrades and security considerations and followed up with demonstration videos and finally with a Q&A session. Since we are on the Q&A side, just one request to all the customers. If you have any questions, please make sure you can post it on the chat during the session. And when you're doing it, if possible, a request, please state your hyperscaler followed up with your question so that it would be much easier for everyone to answer it and understand. Thank you. All right. So let's start with the NetApp Console, right? So some of you may be aware of Blue XP. So NetApp Console is nothing but the same SaaS platform, which is an evolution of the Blue XP, and serve as a central plane management for your NetApp's intelligent data infrastructure. What do I mean by that? So think of NetApp Console as a single pane of glass, where through which the administrators can manage your on-premise as well as cloud storage infrastructure. So what can NetApp Console offer you? So through NetApp Console, you can govern and manage your storage infrastructure. You can monitor for alerts. You can provision your resources such as NFS or SMB file shares. And you can integrate with your hyperscaler services. You can protect your workload using backup and recovery service. You can protect your data against cyber attacks using our ransomware resilience service. And of course, you can enable the data mobility using cloud peering, replication, and copy and sync. So in a nutshell, the takeaway here is you have this single unified operational experience, irrespective of where your data resides. So for a customer who is planning to deploy the agent for the first time, it is very important to understand what are the different modes of operational modes that are available for you. So we have 3 modes in terms of operational wise that is available. One is called full SaaS, other is SaaS restricted, and the third one is private. So full SaaS offers you the richest experience. It gives you the complete integration with the SaaS platform, which is nothing but the NetApp console. Of course, you have to enable the complete outbound network connectivity. What I mean by network connectivity is the APIs endpoints to the NetApp endpoints as well as your hyperscaler endpoints. So in full SaaS, you can deploy your console agent through a guided workflow, which makes it much easier and simpler for you customers to deploy your agent for the first time. And you can access your agent through the NetApp console URL, public URL itself. Now, coming to the SaaS restricted. So SaaS restricted is preferably used by customers who have strict security guardrails in place. So it comes with limited connectivity. Of course, it is again NetApp API endpoints and your hyperscaler endpoints. But here, the deployment of your connector agent with a console agent has to be manual. When I say manual, you have to spin up a VM instance of the compatibility versions, which will be discussed at the later stage. And on top of it, you install the package, which is downloaded from the NetApp support site, and enable the web service on your private VM. And finally, the private mode, as the name implies, these are used specifically by customers who have highly regulated infrastructure or an air-gapped infrastructure where there is no external connectivity. So here, the management is local and completely isolated. So this is the decision of choosing the right deployment mode is your first decision towards a successful deployment. So these are 6 foundational steps or checklist, you could say, you can have in place to have a smooth or a successful deployment of your console agent. Starting with your networking, very most important part of your setup. So, but starting with you need to have an IP range or a subnet that is being allocated for your agent installation, and making sure the subnet has outbound internet connectivity, that is to your NetApp APIs endpoints as well as your hyperscaler endpoints. And also you can restrict your inbound and outbound ports. Then, for instance, if you want to use your agent to discover your on-premise NetApp system, or let's say if you have a DNS which lies in your on-premise, you need to have a hybrid connectivity. So in those cases, you need to open the port across your hybrid infrastructure as well. Then the second point is sign in and create an organization. There's a simple step where you can go to your SaaS portal URL, which is visible on the screen, and you can complete the sign up process, followed by creating an organization, which is nothing but the top level hierarchy folder, which you have to create, underneath which you can segregate your environment. For example, if you have dev, UAT, and production environment, which is completely segregated, you can create 3 different projects, and underneath which you can create your cloud volume ONTAP instances or the agent instances itself. And also, if you want to have a segregation between the identity and access management, you can do that as well at the project level. And the third step is you have to link your NetApp support site account with the NetApp console, which enables you to raise NetApp cases from the console itself. And if you want to go through any documentation on NetApp console, that also helps you through this process. On top of it, you want to capture your licensing and subscription information. That also helps through this linking of NetApp support site. And the fourth and the most important point, which a lot of customers overlooks and ends up having a trouble during the installation process, the cloud permissions. So the NetApp console have to authenticate with your hyperscaler, for which you require certain permissions, certain principles. The terminologies would differ across all the 3 hyperscalers, but ideally it is just creating a service account or creating a policy under your IAM or a role for that matter, and making sure that it has the necessary permissions and associated with the VM instance you are spinning up as part of this agent installation. And the fifth part is creating your first agent. So, like we explained earlier, there are two ways you can spin it up. There are different ways, which will be explained in a later session. But ideally, there are two ways. One is through a guided workflow that is much simpler, or if you're doing it a manual way, where you spin up an VM instance and on top of it, you install your package. So once your agent is ready, deployed, you can go ahead and create your cloud volume ONTAP instances on your hyperscaler. Or if you want to discover your existing on-premise NetApp infrastructure, you can do that as well. Or if you want to enable the data services, such as ransomware resilience or data classification, etc., you can do that as well using this first agent you have deployed. So we have spoken about the required endpoints. And I have mentioned there are two endpoints which we specifically utilize. One is the NetApp endpoints, and then we have the hyperscaler endpoints. So NetApp endpoints are basically agnostic across all the three hyperscalers. So we have five subdivisions within those endpoints. One is for container images. So there are three endpoints. So the idea, the reason behind this is uh, all your agentic images are basically placed in these NetApp-owned Artifactory. So for you to pull these images, you have to have connectivity to these endpoints. Then for your support use case, where you have to send your auto support logs to NetApp, so you have to have this endpoint of support.netapp.com and mysupport.netapp.com. And for AWS hyperscaler users, if you want to spin up FSx using NetApp Console, which is a fully managed native service on Amazon, which is backed up by NetApp, you should have these two APIs as an endpoint connectivity. Sorry. All right. So, and the fourth is the NetApp Console and API, which is nothing but if you want to avail all the services which are offered by the NetApp SaaS platform itself, you need to have connectivity to these endpoints. And finally, the authentication. There are different types of authentication that is being supported by the console agent. One is Auth0, then you can have an identity provided authentication, and you can have an NSS-based authentication as well. So based on your infrastructure, based on your choice, you can choose the right one and enable these endpoints to make it successful. Now coming to the hyperscaler endpoints, the terminologies differs, but under the hood, it's all the same services that are being used. So the customers who are on a specific hyperscaler would make it would make much sense to you to look at these endpoints and understand what does it use. So ideally, your agent requires access to your compute resources. It requires access to your network APIs. It requires access to your KMS APIs, logging APIs. So all these APIs has to be added as an whitelisted endpoint for your IP subnet, so that it can reach out to these APIs without any problem. So we have seen so far, we have seen how the connectivity goes for your agent in terms of a successful deployment. Now the question is, where do we deploy it, and how do we deploy it? So I'll hand it over to my colleague and friend Miguel to take it forward. Miguel,
Thank
please.
you, Arun. Thank you so much. So this is becoming interesting. So first thing I want to mention here is that whether you prefer to deploy the agent using the NetApp console or doing it manually or through the marketplace, you always will need to deploy a Linux host, okay? All of our agents run on Linux hosts, okay? I want to mention this, and you'll see why on the next slides, okay? As you can see, for each one of hyperscalers, the recommended configuration, it's pretty much the same. We got 8 vCPUs, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and roughly 200 gigabytes of disk. This is very important, okay? Why? Because this will ensure that we get the best performance, that we will get the best compute, okay, and we will get the best storage for our agent. At the end of the day, our agent is up and running 24 hours a day, okay? It's doing a lot of things every single day, every single minute, pulling images, contacting our CVOs, our on-prem, working with the data services. So this is about making sure that our agent works smooth at all times, okay? For the present and for the future growth. Next slide, Maroon. Well, and obviously, as you can imagine, if we are deploying a Linux host, obviously we'll need to use an operating system, right? When we deploy the agent using the default mode or the standard mode through the NetApp console, we don't really need to worry about this because this will happen automatically, okay? The NetApp console will handle the the operating system, the container images, and so on. But if we are thinking about deploying this manually, these are the three options we need to choose, okay? Really important. When we use Red Hat Enterprise Linux, we'll need to install Podman, okay, as a container architecture. If we use Ubuntu, if we prefer to use Ubuntu, we'll need to install Docker Engine, okay? This is a golden rule, okay? This is very important. Why is this important? Same again. We want to ensure compatibility, stability, and for me, the most important, security. Okay, so running the latest and compatible images and versions are the way to make sure that our agent will run always smooth and properly at all times. Next slide, Varun, please. Oh, this is more interesting even. Okay, so now we will be talking about the hardware and software requirements, and now we're gonna talk about the 4 different options that you have to deploy your agent. Okay, this really depends on normally it really depends on your organization restrictions or what do you prefer to do, okay? What you are used to do as an administrator, okay? First of all, we have the NetApp console, okay? This is the easiest way, okay? This is the simplest way. You don't want to think about, hey, I need to deploy the instance first. I need to then install the agent. I need to take care of the rules. I need to take care of the Docker or Podman image. NetApp console is the easiest way. It will do everything in background, okay? It will show you through a guided setup what you need to do, okay? You just need to select your hyperscaler, okay? And that's all you need to do, okay? NetApp console will take care of everything, okay? This is more like when you don't really want to think about deploying manually, okay? And when you don't have any security restriction or outbound restriction to the internet, okay? The second choice will be the marketplace. Well, in this case, maybe you don't want to use the NetApp console. Maybe you don't really want to learn how to use NetApp console, and that's okay. Maybe you are used to use your own marketplace, and you have this option. You want to use your own marketplace for each hyperscaler. You have the option to go there and deploy your own agent. It takes a bit longer, okay, because you need to select the machine type. You might need to select the container image and some other features, but still, if you are used to your marketplace, use this option. The manual. Okay, the manual. Now we're talking about a more secure method. Okay, maybe on your organization you don't want your agent to have access to the internet, outbound access to the internet. Okay, so in this case, you could use the manual method. In this case, you should create your own instance on your cloud provider. You should install the agent software manually, and you'll need to install the container and others manually. Okay, this is a method that we always recommend if you have a very high restricted security restrictions, okay? And the last one will be the OVA, okay? I think we are all familiar on what an OVA is. And I'm sure that many of us, we still have VMware running, up and running in on-prem data centers, right? This is the option to choose. You want something easy, you just have to download the OVA, import it to your VMware, and just install it. Use your vSphere client, okay? Very easy. Something that I really want to mention using this method is that if you want to use Google Cloud resources, okay, you will not be able to do it using this method, the OVA, okay? That's just something that I want to highlight, okay? But as I said, we have 4 different methods, and this is about how you prefer all your organization restrictions, okay? And next slide, Varun. Oh, this is the live demo. So we'll be handing over this part to my colleague and friend Joss.
Thanks, Miguel, and thanks, Warren. Fantastic content so far. Really, really enjoying it. Hello, everybody. My name is Joss Moredu. As mentioned at the top of the presentation, I'm a customer success engineer working at NetApp, and I focus solely on the Microsoft Azure platform. So what I would like to do now is just give you a quick run through of deploying NetApp Console into a cloud environment. So again, we'll be working with Microsoft Azure today, and we're going to be using the full SaaS process. So all of the fantastic things that Miguel just spoke about. Before I carry on, I'm just going to ask one of my colleagues, could you please give me a thumbs up to let me know that my screen is clear for everybody on the webinar? Excellent. That's really, really good news. So let's get signed in. For the first time, as we saw in the presentation, you'll be asked to create an organization. I've already done that, and I've already created myself a project. So we have that hierarchical structure that Varun was talking about earlier. If we go to my storage management portal, or the view, this is where you'll see all of your cloud resources, everything that Console and the agent can connect to. We have nothing here at the moment because we're missing our agent, but no fear, we can get set up in a few clicks. So let's create our first agent. Again, we have all of those deployment options that Miguel's just mentioned. We'll click into them very quickly so you can see that NetApp Console on the SaaS version, even if you aren't going to be using the SaaS console, you can still download and access all of the resources that you need. So the OVA, for example, for that package deployment into VMware, manual installation details. So that's the installer package that you put onto your custom-built Linux virtual machine. And you can use that on premises or in your preferred hyperscaler. When we click into the hyperscaler details, we'll see here with AWS, there are some very specific prereqs. So things we've already mentioned during the presentation. So creating your IAM policies and then deciding how you would like to authenticate. So assuming an IAM role or using access keys for a more secure service account type approach. So we'll come into Google Cloud quickly. Only a service account here, as we said, each hyperscaler is slightly different, but you can see once you've done those prereqs, once you've come down to the state where you've created your permissions, the last thing that you're asked to do is just confirm that your networking is set up as it needed to be, as it's set out in our documentation. So let's crack on with Microsoft Azure. I've already created a custom role. I have assigned that to an app registration or a service principal. And I'm using this because I don't want to have the administration of Console bound to a specific user account for Azure. So using my Active Directory service principal, and Console gives you all of the steps that you need to follow if you've not done this before. We scroll all the way down, and then we choose Login with an Active Directory service principal. And here I have my app registration details, so something I've already pre-created. So this is my SaaS permissions app registration. I just need to go in, create myself a new secret. So we'll give it a sensible name. So this is NetApp Console SaaS. I'm going to say it's active for 12 months from today's date. Obviously, your organizational requirements and security preferences may differ. I'm just going to grab my secret value, which is like my password. Then a couple of other pieces of information about my app registration. And then in next to no time at all, we can log in. So I've just authenticated Console SaaS to my Microsoft Azure platform. Again, just going to confirm that yes, all of my networking is set up. And then we move on to the process of actually deploying the connector itself. My subscription is Azure Lab. That's the only one that I've given the console permissions to. So regardless of your hyperscaler, you'll be able to scope the permissions, the access that you give NetApp Console, so that you can govern where and what it can do in your cloud platform. Now, for me, it's a long whiz down the bottom of the list, the UK South. That's where all my resources live. I already have a resource group, but you can also create a brand new one to keep all of your console resources in. I am a bit of a neat freak, so I'm going to pop them into my console resource group. And for this, I'm going to create a username, and this is for the virtual machine itself. Set a password. Click through next. Now I have to give my virtual machine or my EC2 instance or my GCE instance a name. I have already created the role that I need. So I've got two here. So SaaS permissions for setup, and that's the Azure specific JSON that we saw at the beginning of the setup process. So I've given my console agent a name. I've given it the permissions it needs to do its job, and I've ensured that it's scoped only to the Azure subscription, in this case for me, that I want all of those activities to take place in. I click next, select the virtual network that I would like to use. I only have a couple, again, keeping everything nice and simple. And I have a subnet that I have specifically delegated to my console virtual machine. My internet access is direct, so I don't have a proxy to worry about. If you do have any kind of inspection or filtering, work with your network team to make sure that you're networking, and then any of the onward configuration for proxies is captured and set properly. I would like to use a public IP, so that gives me the ability to access the agent interface for my virtual machine, but publicly anywhere on the internet. And I do that securely by hiding it behind a network security group or a discrete firewall. Again, all of the hyperscalers have their own terminology, but something that only allows you to access that resource from its public IP. You do have the option of disabling it as well, and that keeps all of the all of the access either via the console or only through the local UI if you're using console SaaS. We'll click through next again. I just mentioned network security groups. I have one that's pre-configured. So that has all of the required ports, required IP ranges that work well for me and for my organization in this case. And then last thing, we review all of the deployment, all of the options that we've set. The deployment is validated before you actually start to build out any resources. And we'll just wait for a second. And what's happening now is NetApp Console SaaS is communicating directly with the management layer inside Microsoft Azure, and it's starting to build those resources that I need. You can see here, my resource setup has been accepted. That's a really, really good sign. Now, if we click back into Azure really quickly, head down to my subscriptions. Oh, I just saw it there, actually, the resource group. So this is my console resource group. It was empty a moment ago when I started the deployment process. And if you wait a few minutes, and again, this is Azure specific. If you wait a few minutes, there we go. I've refreshed my resource group. all of the resources that actually physically, as much as you can in a virtualized world, that physically power my console agent are already being deployed. So within sort of 10, maybe 15 minutes, it can depend just on how busy your cloud platform is and the region you're deploying into. But with, like I said, 10 to 15 minutes, the console agent is set up and then ready to go. So what I would like to do now is hand back so we can carry on with the presentation, and then we can check back in with the deployment so later on, see how we're doing, and then we can have a look around the interface and see what kind of options and functionality a fully deployed console agent can give us. Thanks.
Great content, Joss. Amazing. How easy it is to deploy an agent. You see? Right. Amazing. So now we're gonna be talking about proactive upgrades, okay? This is very simple. When we have outbound connectivity to the internet from our agent to the internet, I get many questions on my clients that say, "Hey, Miguel, how do I upgrade the connector, right? How do I make sure that it's properly upgraded from time to time?" And I say, well, it's very simple. Just let it be, okay? As long as you have outbound connectivity to the internet, there is no restrictions on for your endpoints and everything works as expected. The upgrade will be done automatically in the background, okay? Every single time a new image is available on the endpoints, the agent will pull that image and will do the upgrade by itself, okay? You don't need to worry about it, okay? That's something that I really recommend. From time to time, check our documentation, check what is the latest agent version, and make sure whether it's from your NetApp console or your agent CLI that you are running the latest version. If you feel that maybe, well, I'm not running the latest version, okay, there might be a problem. Let us know. You can open a support case. You can reach to us, and we'll give you help. Okay, we'll bring any help you need. Okay, but this is very important. As long as your endpoints are properly configured, you have outbound connectivity, and everything works as expected, you don't need to worry about the agent upgrades. Okay. Next slide, please, Varun. And well, this is telling us that at the end, the NetApp agent is a lightweight management component that runs inside your cloud environment, right? So it doesn't require inbound internet access at all, okay? That's a security restriction that we always want to mention, okay? Instead, it only initiates secure outbound connection to the NetApp and cloud provided services. That's all it needs, okay? So as long as we have our networking configuration properly set up and IAM roles, firewall rules, proxies properly set up, okay, will be aligned with the most enterprise security requirements, okay, which is very important. Next slide, please. And yeah, of course, sometimes some organizations want to use a proxy for outbound communication, right? It happens many times. I have many clients that uses proxies. Well, we support this method, okay? What we asking always to always follow the best practices on this, okay? Always follow the best practices and allow the right configuration, okay? Always follow our internal documentation on how to properly set up a proxy, but that's something that you can do, okay? You can use proxies at all times. You can use whether it's using username and password or use CA certificates, okay? Which is very important to keep in mind, all right? Next slide, Varun, please. Oh, and here we got some key takeaways, okay? This is a kind of, once we deployed the agent or while we are deploying the agent, very important key takeaways to keep in mind, okay? From time to time, it might happen that maybe our data services change. that our endpoints are different. Okay, that's why it's important, to check the latest news on our internal documentation. Okay, or maybe just ask us, hey, what's new on endpoints and virtual machine sizing, or maybe permissions for my service account roles. Okay, but it's always important to keep everything properly updated. Okay. The second point, it talks about the right method. We've been talking about the right method. We have the NetApp Console, we have the marketplace, and we have the OVA and the manual. Okay, before deploying our agent, obviously we need to know our organization requirements and restrictions. Okay, in order to know which deployment method use. Okay, this is very important. All right. And the third point is keep your connector agent current. Yeah, exactly the same. If we are running a standard mode agent, we don't really need to worry about the upgrade of the agent. But if we are using a manual method, okay, if we install the agent manually or using the marketplace, or maybe you don't have access to outbound access from your agent to the endpoints, you need to make sure that you update your operating systems and Docker or Podman or your agent version. Okay, that's something that we really need to keep in mind. Okay. And the fourth point is exactly the same. Okay, match your OS and container agent to support the version. As I said before, this is very important, and I've seen sometimes many issues related to this. Maybe we're not running the latest ONTAP version, the operating system. Maybe we're not running the latest agent version, and that brings a lot of issues. So please make sure that you're always running the newest and most compatible version, okay, on your infrastructure. Okay, and next slide, please, Varun. Oh, now we go to questions and answers. My favorite part.
Miguel, if it's okay, just before we move on, I wanted to share the fantastic news that while you've been talking, some more great content. Thank you. The my console agent has finished deploying into
Nice.
Azure. So now, there we go. There we go. So now we can see that I have my brand new console agent. It's deployed into Azure. The status is green and connected, and it's in the Azure region that I wanted to deploy it into. So here we can grab our unique ID. We can also look at some HTTPS, so some proxy setup if we need to. So if that's relevant for your environment, we can also install certificates as well. So that avoids this website is unprotected warning if you connect to your console using its local, the local UI or the IP address. And another thing to start thinking about is configuring NetApp Console to manage your cloud volumes on tap environment in a specific way. We can come into this in another session that's more CVO focused, but here, for example, some key things for cost and capacity management considerations. By default, automatic mode is enabled. So that means that as your CVO environment grows, provided you have some automatic expansion set up, the NetApp Console will intelligently purchase those hyperscaler resources for you, normally additional disks to help expand your aggregates. You can also set some really, really critical settings here. So capacity thresholds when to take effect, the amount of free space to retain for data tiering. I know that tiering was mentioned in the Q&A. Do we want to allow our CVO instances to deploy and then automatically update? If you have specific version control, or if you're trying to maintain parity but in a hybrid environment, you may want to turn this off. And then we've got some Azure specific things here, again, just working on the Azure platform. But you can see now, we start to see more and more features and more functionality come to bear. I still don't have anything configured here in terms of a Cloud Volumes ONTAP instance or an Azure NetApp Files account, but we can also extend that functionality just by checking our credentials very quickly. So organizational credentials here. This is the managed service identity that I gave to NetApp Console so that it could go and it could do its job of deploying my agent VM, which it's done fantastically. And now what I would like to do is expand some of the functionality that I have just by going to my app registrations and grabbing some specific permissions that I gave to work with Azure NetApp Files resources. I think that's the wrong one. It's pretty bad when you can start to tell your subscription IDs by heart. And what we do now, like before, create ourselves a new secret. And again, this will differ depending on your hyperscaler. It extends the functionality. That's all. So much. We can begin to discover any systems that we may have. Unfortunately, I don't have anything provisioned in my small Azure lab right now, but there we go. We've now gone through the process of deploying the console, working with the agent, and very quickly we'll connect to the local UI. Allow me to contact myself. So that's an issue. That's a little issue that I need to fix. That doesn't normally happen. So for the purpose of the demo, I'm going to stop right there.
Okay. We'd love to hear from you. So please drop your questions in the Q&A panel or use the raise hand option so that we can, unmute you and you can ask your questions live. Our team will answer your questions. Varun, we have 2 questions. Can you guys take them up in the Q&A panel live? Would you like to answer them live?
Yeah. All right. So we have a question for Azure. Is there a timeline for when ONTAP will natively support integration with HSMs in Azure? George, you have any idea on that?
So the hardware security modules for Key Vault service. That's a question that I would need to go and discuss with the Cloud Volumes ONTAP product team. So I'll make a note of that. Ashak, we have the attendees' contact information, don't we? So we can follow up with questions afterwards.
Okay, thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
John, we'll be reaching out to you.
Yeah, thanks, John.
So we have another question. Will a recording of this webinar be made available for review later?
Yes, we will be sharing the recording.
Right. Thank you, Akshita.
Also, if you have any additional questions after the session, or if you'd like to explore a more focused one-to-one discussions with our customer success engineers, please reach out to us. I am adding the alias here in the chat window. It's cloudcustomersuccess@netapp.com. Our team will be happy to help you.
All right, we have one more question.
Yep.
What permissions are required or recommended for adding the on-premise NetApp cluster to the console? So it's just your your subnet where your console agent is being deployed should have 443 connectivity to your on-premise network. Okay, we have another question on Azure. Any recommendations for for updating of the Linux OS the agent runs on?
Yes, so we do maintain a list of supported operating system versions, but one of the crucial things to remember is as a containerized service where all of the console functionality that exists inside your virtual machine or your EC2 instance, it all runs as containers. So updating the operating system could impact the supported versions of Docker. So we have a requirement on, like I said, supported operating system versions as well as Docker versions, and those are frequently updated in the official NetApp Console documentation.
Thank you, Josh. We have a question from Prince. Is there any lab available for data classification and tiering available on NetApp portal? We have lab on demands available for data classification. Tiering, I'm not really sure. Guys, do you have anything?
On what I would say is, Prince, if you are engaged with your account team and customer success, we are more than happy to create small demos of specific solutions to help you get the most understanding and benefit from what we can offer you. So if we can circle back on this. We can signpost you to some lab on demand. Although it'd be really good to have a conversation with you wherever you are in the world with your local team. And get you the answers to the questions that you have.
Another question from Prince. Can we change the tiering policy depends on day more than 14 days? Yes, you can.
Yes.
It's customizable from 2 to 180 days.
Yeah. You even have the option of tiering immediately. So as soon as data is written to the performance tier of CVO, I'm mindful that we're starting to veer off into some CVO specific questions and topics, but you can see how closely coupled NetApp Console is with Cloud Volumes ONTAP. But yeah, like Brian said, you can have any configurable setting from 2 to 180 days, plus all snapshots only, and the tiering option of don't tier anything at all. Keep it all in my performance tier.
Just wanted to reiterate one more thing to all the customers. So we customer success engineers are here to help you in these scenarios where you have any questions on the deployments, or if you have any migration requirements or any troubleshooting and escalations. You can always reach out to us. If you are not already engaged with us, please reach out to your account team, ask for a customer success engineer on your hyperscaler, and we will be helpful, very much be ready to help you on all these questions.
We have another question from Vijay Kumar Singh. I have a CVO tiering enabled, but there is no reduction on charging even significant data tier to S3 bucket.
Okay, Vijay, can you tell, please specify the hyperscaler as well?
Okay, I think Vijay by S3 bucket, I think you're mentioning AWS.
AWS.
Doesn't matter, yeah, doesn't matter which hyperscaler it is. The key aspect is you need to consider the capacity of your aggregate. So if you have a large aggregate, and even if you tier data to S3 bucket, you need to right size your aggregate after that, once your data is tiered off. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll still have your large aggregate, and you'll have additional S3 bucket cost. So what we would say is after you tier your data to the backend bucket, look at your aggregate size utilization and considering the utilization if it is very low, and if you have a large amount of data which is already tiered to the S3 bucket, create a smaller aggregate, move the volumes which are there on the larger aggregate to the smaller aggregate, and delete that large aggregate. That's how you take that capacity back, right? So that is how what we recommend. So just enabling tiering doesn't mean that your expenditure will be low, right? So
Vijay Kumar, we've also unmuted you, so you can go ahead and ask your question live as well.
No, thank you so much. We have a CBO on AWS, CBO on Azure. At both places, we have been able tiering, but we don't know when this tier data can be required. So
yeah.
reducing aggregate size is a kind of we don't know at what point the data that is tier would be required again come back to CBO and go should be used by end user.
Yeah. So once if you enable tiering, and if you have enough cold data to be tiered off, I mean, if you use tiering policy all the data except the metadata will be tiered off, right? So if you're using auto policy, it'll look at the cooling period. And if the cooling period is 10 days, everything which is untouched more than 10 days will be tiered off, right? And if there's a command called volume footprint show. I think it's footprint show. If you Google volume footprint show command, it'll give you the right command, which will actually tell you how much data is on your performance tier and how much is on the capacity tier, right? Also, you can look at the aggregate utilization and take action.
Okay,
If you want,
you know,
yeah, if you want detailed discussion, and if you want to engage us, yeah, we are happy to do that one-on-one, yeah.
okay, thank you so much. Because we are
Yeah.
spending a lot of money on buying tiering licenses at the same time. Aggregate size is also so big. So
Yeah.
sometimes I feel I'm paying at two places for the same data, right?
Yeah,
One is
exactly.
for
That is
allocated,
why.
other for tiering, right?
Exactly. That is why it is very crucial that you look at your aggregate size and right size your aggregate using volume move. So you cannot just shrink the aggregate size. You need to deploy a new smaller aggregate, move the volumes into this new aggregate and delete that large aggregate, which is uh, which is we're spending a lot on that aggregate, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
I think we have two more questions. The first question is how agentic AI can be implemented in storage. If you would like to take this live.
I think uh, it's a very generic question. Could you be more specific in what is the use case, Ravi? What are you planning to? Are you trying to use agentic AI and use the data which is in CVO?
Or is it to agentically manage your storage as well? Because we're seeing
Yeah.
customers look at both sides, the great use case that Varun just mentioned, which is unlocking the potential of your data, but also how do we make managing our platforms easier? So yeah, please let us know.
We have Kamran Aslam who has raised his hand. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask question.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, hi. Yeah. Before I start off, it's a very good demo, so well done to all of you guys. Very informative. I just want to go back to the question Vijay Kumar Singh asked. We don't use tiering here where I'm at, but the answer suggested moving volumes, creating aggregates, etc., to save on cost. And I'm just wondering, then does that become an ongoing task then? It's not a one-off task. It's something that you have to be kind of proactive about and potentially be doing on a regular basis.
Yeah. So when you operate your CVO, it's very important that you look at the capacity, right? Always. So you need to manage
Mm.
and operate the system as per NetApp recommendation to get most out of it. And financial aspect is a big one, right?
Mm.
So the aggregate, say you have not configured tiering when you migrated to CVO, right? Then you're left with a large aggregate. Then considering the data, say, for example, you have 50% of data sitting on your aggregate is cold, which your users are not using, right? So you have decided to enable tiering to make use of that tiering technology, which comes with Terra ONTAP, to reduce the capacity spending on the SSD. Then you would configure tiering. Then the system would start moving that 50% of data, which is cold data, to the capacity tier, right? And then that doesn't end there. Then you need to take action on your aggregate as well. So you right size your aggregate, then you get that financial benefit of tiering. If you leave that large aggregate there and enable tiering, you're spending 50% cost on S3 in addition to the large S3 footprint on the SSD, right? So that is where right operation of CVO is very important. You need to take action when it is required, right? So maybe at beginning of it, maybe in middle, or when you operate the system, yeah.
Yeah, that explanation is good. But my question again is, it's an ongoing task, right? Because data changes on a regular basis, right? New writes, etc.
Yep.
So it's something that you not shrink, but you use a smaller aggregate to save costs.
Right.
Then maybe a month later, you may have to rerun that exercise again and create another aggregate because more data on the more cold data. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. It's an ongoing task, from my understanding, which you need to kind of measure and monitor. Yeah.
It is, Cameron. You're absolutely right. So I work with some regulated customers, and they are highly regulated. So for them to create or expand an aggregate, it requires a lot of manual intervention because they have to have checks and balances at all the points a human being does something in their cloud platform. So capacity planning and looking at your historical data and going, oh, do we have a time of year, like approaching year end? It's sort of planning for those peaks, and then like Deepu said, it's making sure that you're not paying for something twice. So yeah, keeping your aggregates as small as possible, leveraging tiering, leveraging storage efficiencies inside Cloud Volumes ONTAP as well. They can be extremely powerful. The deduplication, the compression, all of the services that reduces your storage footprint, so that your data storage footprint, if you like, your data footprint is smaller, then your infrastructure footprint is correspondingly smaller. Again, that's very much something that your customer success team can help you with. We work with customers to help you get the outcome that you need.
Sure.
So I hope that helps.
Thanks,
I am
Joss.
my pleasure. My pleasure.
Thanks, Deepu, as well. You mentioned dedupe. That's another avenue to kind of discuss. But yeah, okay, cool. It's never as magnificent as I ever expected to be, put it that way. But it's still good. It's still good. But like I said, it's another discussion. Yeah, thanks. Okay.
I'll be honest with you. A few years ago, if you told me that I would be getting excited about storage on a daily basis, I would have looked at you like you just popped in from another world entirely. But yeah, it is really interesting what you can get into. I am mindful we've had a fantastic question in the Q&A from Benham. I hope I pronounced your name correctly there, Benham. Thank you for asking. Do you recommend having different console agents per region or cluster? For example, one single unified agent for all the clusters across the world. Now, there are some organizational, so basically your own organizational policies are going to need to come into effect here. Where are your resources deployed across Azure or AWS or GCP or even on-prem? Where's the most appropriate place for you to host your agent or agents? And also there is a risk of, and I've seen it with a couple of customers that operate multiple agents in their different environments. You can end up in a situation where the same CVO node or cluster can accidentally be registered by a customer to two individual console agents, and that can result in some double billing. It's not a big problem to clear up, but it's something that we'd like to avoid because then it causes you additional work as well. So planning your deployment of CVO and also planning the placement of your console agents and considering the dimension of how your organization needs to work. Are you happy with the full SaaS version? Do you need to use restricted SaaS, or do you actually need to be entirely private? Those are all conversations that we would have with you, and we're helping to plan how to build your environment. So tell us what you need, and then we'll help you to fit the installation, a bit like an electrician would. We'll help to fit the installation around what you've got in your home, be that cloud or on premises. I hope that helps.
I think we have another question. I think that we can conclude the session. In console, can we use organization for clustering of flyers? Depends on the workloads or site basis.
Yes. So I think Deepu, Varun, and Miguel, we've all mentioned that the organization and then the projects, those are your OUs, if you want to think of Active Directory for argument's sake. So you'd have your site, and then you'd have your OUs corresponding underneath that, and that's exactly how you would divide up your estate logically. I mentioned my regulated customer, where they have kind of highly secure and then not insecure, but just less secure zones. And they divide their whole organization up that way, so that people who work in the restricted zone cannot access things in the unrestricted zone and vice versa. So there are lots of powerful controls in terms of organizing your resources, and also the levels of access that you give to your engineers, administrators, people that need to do reporting. So we can help a lot with that as well.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Varun, Joss, Miguel, and Deepu for this insightful presentation. And thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you with us. So if you have any additional questions after the session, or if you'd like to explore more focused one-to-one discussion, please reach out to us at cloudcustomersuccess@netapp.com. Our team will be happy to help you with your follow-up guidance or connect you with the right resources. And if you'd like a deeper dive, we can also schedule a call for a guided demo and tailored recommendations. We are here to assist you and help you. Looking forward to future sessions as well. And we truly appreciate your partnerships and participation, and look forward to connecting with you at our future webinars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have the best day ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thank you.